mig Anna och välkomna tillbaka till min nästa layout som heter Ikea Sommarlov. What am I saying? Okay, so I'm using the L Studio Shine paper as a border there, and of course using the branding strip reverse side to create my next layout, which I've entitled Ikea Sommarlov, which is the words IKEA and summer holidays in the same title, but not necessarily making a sentence because I don't quite know how to do that, despite my attempts at Swedish these days. So now I'm laying down the border, and just in the corners a touch of glue because I'm about to sew the edges with gold. There you go, flash up. And now I'm selecting the bits and bobs I think I'm going to use in this layout, particularly that mask by American Crafts, and I've done well to remember that because I've forgotten all the rest of the products. But anyway, here I go with this quite strange camera mask. I find it a strange size to use on any of my layouts, but I've wanted to have a go, and I've decided to make it as a kind of a top left backdrop there, which is going to be quite a prominent backdrop on the layout, and I'm going to use that structure gel to create it in a way that I will later regret, as you'll see. But here I go with a very thin blade which started to annoy me, so I've swapped that out for a little kind of a credit card type thing to spread that a bit more evenly. But I think the trick with structure gel, having just used it like this, is that I should have really added some colour from the outset, and I probably would have been happy then. But what I've tried to do is, okay, so I'm drying it, and I've used it as a bit of a resist now to some gold Winsor & Newton ink. And I do quite like the effect of what I achieve here, so I'm just kind of lathering it on with a bit of a thin brush. But anyway, and as you'll see, I'll try and wipe that off the shiny resist that I've created in a way that I'm never going to be happy with, so you'll see how I correct that later. But I quite like that almost kind of a smoky sky sunset effect, which will be quite a nice backdrop to the pictures, I think. And I've had some suggestions really helpfully from you guys from my previous video to slow some of it down, so I've had a go at doing that where I've felt that I'm probably speeding through a little bit too much. Some of it's still quite fast, but some of it I've slowed down, so now you can see me with this inking process at a bit more of a comfortable rate, and what I'm trying to achieve there is just some drips. Well, actually won't end up showing on the top left, but will end up showing on the bottom right, so just having a play there to see how it behaves more than anything. And actually in my mind I haven't perfectly worked out the layout either, so I'm still experimenting with what's going to look good, and I'm quite open to moving the pictures around if I think it looks okay. But anyway, as you'll see, I'm working on two pictures, one that will act as the main overlay, and then what I'm going to end up to do is not to have them side by side, which I've tried to do on the layout, but I didn't enjoy what I was doing there, so I've actually tucked one behind as a pull-out picture. And there's the good old crepe paper, which I go all yucky about, and I thought I'd try and work that in and maybe make it look a bit like the vapor trails in the pictures and stuff. You'll see how I try and make that work, and I've ditched the whole idea, but I thought I'd leave that in for you just to see how sometimes I play around with some ideas, and it could have looked okay, but it's just my nemesis in the scrap world, that crepe paper. I don't enjoy it at all, but it came in the kit, so I thought I'd work it in if I could. And that's a picture there of Lorenz in front of the towers. He was quite pleased to get his picture taken, and that had been one of Elias too if he weren't so camera shy that day. Those towers are actually quite iconic. They belong to the old power station that was built in the late 40s and demolished in about 1983 or something like that, and Ikea came to be in that location in Croydon in about 1992, I think, something like that if my memory serves me, and it's our local Ikea and it's where we love to go. It's the one place in the world that nobody else loves to go, but we seem to migrate there for a little treat every now and again, maybe for some meatballs or some Ikea goodies in the shop at the end. We don't really enjoy the furniture bit together, let's be honest, well, except for the boys playing on the children's beds and things like that, but and also they've never been to the small land play area where you can drop the kids off and go and have a shop for an hour. So it's really just a kind of little place to go and have some food and a quick run around and then go home. We're not too far from there, so it makes a good little day trip in the summer holidays when you've got lots of days to do things in. So I'm just working on some of this ephemera at the moment. Unfortunately, the film cuts out a little bit of where I actually come to stick those down. So you'll see me talk you through what I stuck when the batteries died. I think that's what happened because I've spent so long doing the masking and faffing around with all the modelling paste that I ran out of battery in my old camera. So here I am anyway, putting some dimensional tape on the overlay picture and just making sure the sizing's okay for the picture of Lorenz that's going to tuck underneath. I think I would have had Lorenz on top, really. He's more central than the towers themselves, don't get me wrong. It's just it's not a particularly high quality picture. And yeah, so I'm making something a bit more of the towers than of Lorenz, because also Elias was there and I don't have a good picture of him. Maybe that's my rationale. Maybe it's because I've already cut the pictures to those sizes. Sometimes I can't remember. It was a long time ago I did this layout, actually. So I think I'm trying to work out another plan with this same mask, because as I say, I wasn't happy with the way the gold stuck to what I had intended to be a bit of a resist. So I thought, oh, why don't I make it yellow, add it into the texture gel. Well, top tip to anyone trying this is texture gel plus texture gel makes a right royal mess, and it doesn't work. So what do you do with the right royal mess? You stick it in your pipe and smoke it. That is not tobacco. It looks like it, doesn't it? It's, I think, some brown flower soft, and I thought I might give a kind of retro feel to that camera or something or another, and it just looked really ugly, so I've wiped that all off again, start again. But this bit I am quite pleased with. You can just see my face poking in the corner there. It's where I use my old glitters, and I decided to go with a really luminous yellow one to represent the flash on the glossy accents, and on the other side just some really bright iridescent glitter there, and I actually really am pleased with the way that looks. And so what am I doing here now? Just neatening up around the edges of the glossy accents, because I used a load, I was really liberal with that, and it did spill a little bit into the edge. But I can tell you about that glossy accents, it's a really good glue for glitter, because none of that sheds. As I'm touching now the layout, you can hear it. Nothing is shedding whatsoever off those two patches. So that's good. I'm just touching up the gold though. Spending far too long on this whole mask concept than I should be, really. For a scrapbook page, this is just driving me mad, and I think I started to kind of fall out of love with the whole process here for myself. I was really becoming bored actually with how this wasn't coming along right. So I thought, well, if I can make it pop a little bit, maybe I wouldn't be so upset, and I've gone round with black pen, which it's a bit tricky actually because it doesn't stick right to the edge of that ink. It's really quite tricky to get it to adhere, even though it's a really quite bold nib. But anyway, I've persevered with that, and in the end I am glad I did actually. Looking at the end layout, I'm pleased with how it's turned out ultimately. It just took a lot of effort to get there. So now working on the positioning of the pictures, which is where it's roughly going to be right now, and some of the ephemera and stickers that I might want to work into this layout as well. And those pegs, where are they from? They're Wilton mini clothespins that came in the kit. And I've just kind of, yeah, look, with my fingers talked you through the bits that I've stuck on there, but unfortunately off camera So those little tickets at the top there weren't individual tickets. I cut those out of that, if you remember, the yellow tickets paper that came in the kit. So I quite like the way that looked there, because that was literally the last two out of the paper. I chucked nothing out, so that was just a little scrap of that yellow paper. And here I go with good old trusty scalpel blade to get rid of that texture paste centre of the mask altogether. Just hated it. But I do love a little go with a scalpel blade, so I'm quite pleased to be using that really. And just checking what colour I want in the background. And I have actually settled straight away for white. I really like the way that popped. And already having used a few white accents in the layout, such as the doily and the label, it does that nice little trio, that triangle around the page to take your eye around the white thing. Well, that's my theory anyway, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah, but obviously when you try and do this after having stuck some of the elements down, it's a bit trickier to cut the centre out. And I'm just going back round the black outline there, just to kind of make it, even it up a bit more again, because I've cut some of the black liner off in that process. Okay, so what else to tell you about the layout while I'm just doing that quickly? Maybe if I can just read through the journaling I popped on the back of that card, which you'll see me write up later. And it says, for a lot of people, Ikea represents a nightmare of stress, rat runs, queues, and somewhere to avoid if you possibly can. But for Lorenz and Elias, the word Ikea sets a spark of delight positively alight as we ponder our food choices, meatballs, pick and mix, and the children's, inverted commas, play section, i.e. the display beds, etc. We all love Ikea during Sommarlov. We do. Even I do. And I'm not even a child. But it does bring out the child in me somewhat, going around the sweets section at the end. So this, this title is actually from Fab Foam. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I wrote it in reverse. It's one of those tricks I learnt as a teenager, I don't know, when I had lots of time on my hands. So I can do reverse writing quite easily, it's not a problem. And I'll just cut it around with, might have been scissors, might have been a scalpel blade, I can't remember. It was a long time ago that I played with that idea, and it was inspired by, of course, the Amy Tangerine wording that you get in her +1 collection. Not to be too much of a rip-off merchant. I just thought I'd see if it would work with my oodles of Fab Foam that I've got in boxes lying around that I haven't used in years, and it did work. Well, to my satisfaction anyway. And these are actual retro yellow foam stickers that I've had in my stash for ages. And I'm just writing the word Ikea, but it says IKFA at the moment because I don't have an E, so I'm going to remedy that by using a little bit of another letter to make the Ikea word. I wish we had wax paper. I'm sure we could get it in some shops in the UK, but not where I live, and so I've used that plastic sheet that actually those foam letters had a tendency to stick on, so I was quite lucky to be able to retrieve those, because they'd started to adhere already. But anyway, I had good luck with that, and I've decided to lay that just along the edge of that picture because I thought it looked quite nice there, and to just kind of go with the triple yellow look. So I've got yellow up in the flash, yellow in Ikea. I've kind of balanced that out with the photo bombed badge, flare badge that you'll see me stick down on the bottom right corner, to balance the layout out a little bit. But at the moment I'm just sticking down some hearts and sequins and things. The hearts didn't come in the kit this month, but the sequins did, and I have a lot of fun with those. They're lovely iridescent sequins actually, so they've been quite nice to play around with. And that already came with one little pop dot, that flare badge, but it had lost its stick, I think, rattling around in my box, so I've put it up on some dimensional foam. It gives it a bit more stability anyway, so I was quite glad to do that. And this is the bit where I write the journaling and say goodbye to you all, but thank you so much for watching my layout. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to sharing some more with you in the near future. Bye bye!